Well, welcome to a Frenzee live match. This is the second episode in this feature where we follow a top Frenzee angler through a live match. Today it's my turn for my keep next to go in, and I've brought you to South Yorkshire and Barnburgh Lakes. Let's go and see what the draw bag's got in store. So I've drawn, and it's mixed emotions, to be honest with you. There's a good number of people have turned up today, more than normal. So they've had to put two lakes in. We've got bottom pool and we've got top pool. Last week, bottom pool fished really well. At the weekend, this one was a little bit slower. So most people got their head down to bottom pool, more looking forward to it. But I've drawn a good peg on top pool. The match was actually won off this peg on Saturday with £49, and it was the gentleman at the next peg. So he's going to be one to beat today. Not sure on his tactics from Saturday. I have asked him, but not had no come. So we're just going to say we've got a good option in the margin. We've got a good set of reeds. We've got a good depth against them. There is a few fish knocking in the reeds, but to be honest with you, I'm probably going to start over on the far side, target the stockies. There's a good head of stockies that were put in here over the weekend. As you can hear, the match has just started, so I'm going to go over on against the far side and target the stockies. I'm going to be using expanders with a little bit of crushed ground bait, and I'm going to probably start with maggots down the margin. Also, I'm going to target the short line, which is always a favourite here, and hopefully we can catch some of them proper ones back end of the match. So wish me luck. Okay, so let's have a look. We're going to start on these stockies with just a little bit of coarse expander. Just going to be feeding a little bit of coarse expander. Seems to be right for these stockies here. Came last Friday. That just seemed to be the number one. Better than micros, even though it's gone a little bit milder today. Last couple of days we've had 10, 11, 12 degrees. There's definitely been a rise in temperature, so we might be able to get away with a little plug of micros, but we're going to start with expander. Now, the other thing that I've noticed while I was plumbing up, to my left down against the reeds, there was definitely some fish that I was knocking. So I'm just going to pick the catapult up in between. Hopefully I'm shipping in and out with these stockies, and I'm just going to try and prime and have a little bit of a gamble. Even though there's going to be some fish to be caught against the reeds, I'm just going to come off the reeds into like 4.5, 5 foot of water. It's probably 2 foot, 2'6" against the reeds. Just going to come out slightly, and I'm just going to ping 6 or 7 maggots, probably 1.5 meters out from the reeds, and just going to see if I can. I'll probably go on it probably like 40, 50 minutes in, maybe an hour in, just have a little look, just to see if there's any indications. Shallow. Set 1 or 2 rigs up from 6 inches off bottom up to 18 inches off bottom, but there definitely was enough fish there to make me feel as if it was worth setting the rigs up for. So I'm going to start. It's a little bit of a long way to go, but just going to try and get myself a decent start across there. So I'm just going to tap, just going to drop my pole in, just going to oh, look at that, look, I've not even placed my rig into my ground bait. I've just tapped my ground bait in, laid my rig in, and it's just pulled the elastic out. So that's the start I was looking for. It's only a small fish, but it's a start. He's came in about 2 months ago. Mark, who owns the fishery, put these in. They're a nice little stamp. Been averaging probably around about the 3 to the pound, 3 or 4 to the pound. There is 1 or 2 different stamps in here, but if we can Be nice to catch some slightly better stampers. They're up to 12 ounce. There's one or two fish around the 12 ounce mark, but probably averaging three or four to the pound. One or two of the anglers have also started for the stockers, I've noticed, and they've gone straight into fish also. The first thing I'm looking to do is hopefully there was enough bait left after that last feed that I can just put that in, turn my cup round, and then hopefully I've got one on there, look, and then I'm just going to tap the bait in after I've hooked the fish. I've got really light elastic on, so I'm not being pulled out of my peg by, even though they're small fish and shouldn't really pull me out of the peg, should be able to just tap the bait in, but that light elastic, just the 6 to 8, frenzee 6 to 8, just allows me, so there's no pressure on my pole. It just makes it nice and simple, just tap that elastic, tap that ground bait in. Probably 3 to 4 ounce that. Just starting on a 3mm expander, 18. So it's just slightly over wetted ground bait. I've got the same ground bait but drier. I just noticed the last time I was here it was just better if I just dampened it off slightly, just so it just sort of got down a little bit tighter, just stopped them from being a bit too active around. So let's just see if that works again. Again, even though it's 14.5 metres, still be nice just to get a start. Reluctant to just put my bait in, tap my bait. I'm going to put it in though. Just notice where I've plumbed up there with my bait on, the float was just dotted down. I've just inched it up the shelf a little bit and my float's just sat nice now, so I was just fractionally off the shelf there with my bait. Plumbed up to the back end of my pole, 14.5 metres. See, that bait's got in, float's moving left and right, there's definitely some fish there. Sometimes with these stockies, they'll just sit with it in the mouth. No indication there. Be nice to catch these with, fishing 13, but it's a little bit too deep here at 13. Got to find that little bit. So I've got to find 2.5 foot of water for these. Especially as it's a little bit milder as well. They'll be too active. They'll be slightly too deep, especially with ground bait. Just a little bit longer there to get that bite, but this looks a slightly better fish. Maybe why it took slightly longer. Might have been a better one sat there. It's not foul look. Don't think it is. Slightly better stamp. 6-7 ounces. When they first went in, they definitely woke the bigger fish up, so there were some big weights soon after they got introduced. 30 to 50 pound was winning the matches, and then all of a sudden there was like 60 to 90 pound winning the matches. So again, just plug in that, just got to try and get the right amount, finding that just like a walnut size of must expander. Not forming a ball with it, I'm just sort of smearing it into the cup, and the cup's actually forming the ball inside the cup. So I've noticed already that I've just got to make sure that I push to the limit straight away. Oh, come off. Going to get a little bit of that for a start off before we settle them down. Just nice here to see you float, you fish your yellow top floats. Oh, just come off there. Took my pellet. Really nice to see a yellow tip float, really make it out nice. So you can dot them right down. 4mm, it's like a little 3mm expander. What I find with these expanders is I don't actually pump them. I just prepare them the night before. I just basically tip water on them so they'll just float, but I just leave them overnight. And I find they have a lovely consistency, a little bit firmer than if you pump them. Just go a little bit too soft, so it's just nice for shipping at this distance. If I was fishing short, then I could pump them and make them a little bit softer, but I just need to turn my cup over just so I'm ready just to, that's a small one, it doesn't feel very big. That's a small one, don't want too many of them. Where's my discordia? Where's my discordia? I'm sure I got it out. Oh no, I didn't. There it is. Wood. I've done some 4mm as well, expanders, just in case there is some better fish about, and it'll just give me a little bit longer in the peg without to stock it. Get into the bait first, maybe just give me a little bit longer, but I find these 3mm perfect at the moment. Lay that in. Just fished. Got a 0.3 on in 2 foot of water. So it takes like 7 number 11s. Just something to be nice and positive. There you go. So just very, very light bites, even though they're quite ravenous. They're just picking it up, and it's just. Fish are just touching the float. It's just very, very small indications on the float, but even for a fish now, it's 6 ounces. You know, if you have a too light a float on, it probably wouldn't quite be straight enough just to register that bite. There's 1 or 2 fish being caught. People who seem to have started on the stockers have all gone getting much irregular. Like 1 or 2 lads have started short and down the margins, and maybe open at the better fish. You have a feed early, but it's a little bit quiet at the moment. To find that rhythm. If it was too messy, then what I mean by messy is just getting too many indications, too many liners, and I'd probably have to look at just changing it up a little bit. Maybe even just go in and I'll probably get another 10 or 12 inches of shallower water if I went to another joint, but a little bit awkward to ship here once you get past 14.5, so just going to make sure that I spoke to you earlier about 1 or 2 fish knocking while I was plumbing up. I mean, a couple of weeks ago we probably would have started dobbing bread down there, but just think it's been a little bit too warm now for that, so just going to ping half a dozen maggots down there. Caught something. just to give me an option of trying 1 or 2 shallow reeds just to see. And I'm just going to start feeding them in that short line here. Another good line here. It's been probably the most consistent all year. Going to start 15 to 20 maggots. Again, up until this little milder weather has landed, we're probably feeding 6 to 8 maggots. Small one of them. Seems a long way to go for these, but it's a start. It's a start. Just gets me off. Gets me up and running. Well, I've had the start we're looking for. We're about 15 minutes in now. I think I've got 8 to 10 fish. I've settled down pretty quick. I'm not getting too many missed bites and foul hookers. So I'll come back to you shortly and let you know how we're getting on. Well, it's been a really busy first 90 minutes on these stockies. All sizes. I've had them from 2 ounces, probably like 8 ounces, 9 ounces has probably been the biggest fish. What I have been doing though, I spoke to you earlier, I've been feeding this line where I've definitely bumped a few fish, been pinging a few maggots, just half a dozen, twice every single time I go out. I think it's worth the effort. Even though it's slowing me down on these stockies, I feel with the amount of fish that I bumped down there, knocking at the start of the match, or before the start of the match when I was plumbing up, I just think it's worth the effort. And I'm going to try there in about 5 minutes. Dying to try down there. I've even, where I've been catching my maggots, I'm probably catching them a metre short of these reeds. But the overspray, there's been 1 or 2 fish just knocking on the edge of the reeds. So I'm quietly confident that I might catch. Now whether I'll catch shallow or not is another thing. I've set 3 shallow rigs up. One's like 6 inches off bottom. One for a foot off bottom, and I've even dared to put one up about 2 foot. I'll make the effort. That one's a small stocky, that one's like that, 3 ounces. But it has been a really busy first 90 minutes. I found, again, I'm feeding after I've caught a fish. I'm just turning my pot over and just tapping that little bit of mush ground bait in, a little bit of mush course expander. Just as if like they just seem to get better bites with it. I did try, I had a little couple of casts where I just went out with micros. I caught a slightly better stamper. I caught one about £1.5, £2, out the blue in the middle of them. So I thought it was worth just trying a couple of casts with some micros, fishery micros, and then just fished a 4mm expander on the hook. But to be honest with you, I was missing a few bites. It got a little bit messier, and I've gone straight back to putting the course expander in. Just really consistent, just getting the fish every chuck in. I'm finding that I've definitely got to straighten my float out. I've just got to let my shots drop to the bottom, hold my float 6-8 inches out of the water, let everything straighten up, and then just lower it in, just giving me a better, cleaner bite. But just as soon as it settles, just registering a bite straight away. I've even put a smaller shot on my hook length. I've just dropped number 10 on my 4-inch hook length. Just to give me that slightly better indication on the float, just to straighten everything up. The fish picked it up. These little stockies, they really do, they just stick their mouth in. They're really hungry, but they're not actually sucking it in from a distance. They're just clamping on the bait, and they're not giving you what you'd think was a really shy bite, but they're not. They're just sat there eating everything. They're not moving away off it, or... So again, it's just important, dotting everything down, lowering everything in. You can see there, that one just held it up then, and that's again with that shot that I just put on the hook length. Just gives me that little bit more indication. So just held that shot up where we're 4-inch hook length. You might not quite seen that bite so quick. Probably seen it eventually, but not quite as quick. Again, there's no real consistency in the stamp of the fish. 3 to 4 ounce. And I've been looking round. Steve on my left, probably persevering a little bit, trying to catch some better fish. He's catching some stockies, but he's gone to the margin to his right, which is where the reed bed is in between us. Definitely just keeping my eye on him, catching fish, but probably not as quick as I am catching across there. And also I'm priming the line up, so hoping when I go on it. Now, even if I don't get a big run of fish out down there, even if I catch 1 or 2, I can just come back off it and then just back out over here. But it's just, again, it's just leaving it into maybe a good line just to sneak a couple of better ones, possibly. Might be a little bit too early yet, but again, going back to the fish that I was bumping down there, I am keen to go down there and have a look, but the longer I prime it up, I'm sure the better it'll be when I do go down there. Kev to my right, there's 3 spare pegs between me and the angler to my right, and Kev came short early. He had a good little run across. He started on the stockies similar to me, but he came off them and came short, and it's a little bit slower for him. He's still caught, but felt a little bit slower. Again, slightly better one here. Might be even one of the older ones. Possibly. No, it's foul looked. Slightly better one, foul looked. Oh no, I don't think it is foul hooked. It's just a smaller fish. It was just twisted on the line. Again, this nice soft elastic. Yeah, it's a better one. It's a better good stocker. 12 ounces, nearly 14 ounces that one. Maybe even a pound that one. Yeah, so I'm sacrificing a little bit of time, stopping and priming that reed bed up, but again, every time I look down there I can just see the reeds just twitching, so I know there's fish there. Now all I'll do, if I don't catch when I go down there, I'll probably just keep on these stockies. I'll go back on these stockies and keep priming it up. It'd be nice to catch one though, to be honest with you, just to give me the confidence that I'm going down the right path. A long way to go for the stockies, but to be fair, the banks behind me are quite nice. Just to ship them pretty nice and easy. Nice height. Nice clean bite there. Soft elastic, just cushions everything. Allows me to just cad that bait in, so priming it up for the next fish. Now, as much as I don't want to come off these, I also want to go and have a look down there. So I'm going to have a look while you're with me. Why not? don't think they'll, I think them stockies will still be there when they get back. So now I'm going to start. Where am I going to start? I'm going to start. Oh, this is a frenzee prototype. Just a little dibber. I'm going to just shallow that up a little bit more. I'm just going to drop a shot on it. Just going to drop a little back shot at little number 11, just so I can just. Got a slight breeze blowing into these reeds now, but no ripple. If it's going to get up, it is going to ripple into that corner, which again is going to be a bonus. But I'm not going to waste long on this. I'm only going to have 5 minutes on it. Just lay it in a couple of times, and if I don't catch, I might come back and just try one a little bit deeper. Oh yeah. My hands are wet and slippery. Let's put the shot on. There we go. So I'm a little, one concern I've got is them reeds and whether I'm going to hook a fish and they're actually going to go into them reeds. Oh. Let's see if we hook one first. Just going to band a maggot on. Just going to push the point. Push the point into the front of the band, and then just. That's perfect. That's probably 2/3 deep. It's probably 4 foot, and I've probably got just under 3 foot there. So I'm just going to cat here half a dozen maggots. Again, look, I've just looked down there when I've cut it in down. There's been a couple of reeds not. It's going to take one shot. It's 13 down here. These reeds, so just going to have a little look. I'm just going to mark the line. I've marked up where I can fish. I'm just going to ping 6 or 7 maggots and then just lay on top of them 6 or 7. Just going to fish probably 18 inches, 2 feet short of the reeds. Again, I'm looking, I'm in that direction now, and you can see them fish knocking them reeds. Oh, indication then. So this is a foot off, this is probably just over a foot off bottom. 3 number 11s, just spread probably 6 inches apart. Might need just to go a fraction further over. Just bring that out so my pole's not over their heads. There's still a little bit of colour in it. It's not clear. Don't think the pole over the heads is going to be a problem. 1 or 2 little bits of debris in that corner where it make it a little bit more difficult, but that's nice. It's going to settle now, that is. Here's a fish. Oh, it's come off. That looked like a stockie, unfortunately. I was hoping that was going to be one of them better ones, but it looked like it was a stockie. That's fine. Again, I'm just going to ping in half a dozen just before we actually go into the peg. So it's actually quite comfortable to fish because I'm facing that way, coming across my knees. Again, now I'm facing this way because I've been fishing over against the far side and I've only been looking down there when I've been feeding, but I've noticed all the time there's them reeds are knocking. Whether they're stockies or not, I'm not sure. I hope they're not. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of little indications down there. Not sure whether they're stockies or not, or whether they're the better fish. Probably just shell her up slightly. I wasn't expecting to come today and be fishing shallow. Definitely some fish there. Definitely getting a few indications and a few bites. Just going to shell her up slightly. I'm going to take 6 inches off. I've set 3 rigs up, and all my rigs are a little bit deeper than this one. This is actually my shallowest rig. I'm not feeding a great deal. I'm only feeding 6 or 7. Straight away there, a little bit, just that showing up that little 6 inches. Bite straight away. Fish on. It's a stocky, unfortunately, not what I was hoping for. They weren't stockies that were knocking earlier, there were definitely better fish that I was knocking earlier when I was plumbing up. Well, I'm going to give this another 2 or 3 minutes. If I don't catch a better fish, then I'll be back across for the stockies. I'll go back across for the stockies and just keep priming this up. And I'll come back to you. About an hour, and hopefully I've caught, been back down here, and I've actually had 1 or 2 better fish. I'll catch up with you later. So I'm coming away from the edge. That's probably somewhere around there. That's probably it, about there. Probably as clean as it feels. Whether it'll start to get messy, I think what happens is there's some dead reeds on the bottom. That's probably about 2 foot out from the reeds, so I'm just hoping that they don't start to disturb the weed on the bottom too much. I'm just hoping that's a little bit cleaner there. Feels a little bit cleaner. I've got a big plummet on. Feels quite firm there. Nice big heavy plummet. So we're gonna fish similar to what we're doing across. We're going to put it in, and then once we've upped the fish, we're going to tap the bait in. So let's have a look. Now it's 14 across there. It really is hard work, and if we can catch them a little bit shorter. There's plenty of fish down there. I was really surprised that we didn't catch some better F1s. I felt as if I upped one, it might have been a slightly better stamp stocker, foul hooked. It come off on the way back, but it did feel a better fish, and actually I fished for another probably 10-15 minutes just to sort of see if there was any more there, but the reeds were knocking, and it really did look like there was some stamp fishing amongst them. And I've persevered with it. I've tried different rigs. I've gone right down to like 6 inches off bottom. I started missing bites off stockies, and it was a bit messy, to be honest with you, but I had to do it. There's one there, stocker. Oh, foul look. Foul looker. Might take 5 minutes just to get it to settle down, but might be quicker than having to ship 14 across there, especially if we're going to be fishing these for a little bit longer than what I anticipated. I thought we're probably only fishing for stockies for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours probably maximum, and then we'd start to target the better fish. But with what's being said around the lake, it's fishing difficult unless they're catching a little bit, catching further around that I can't see, but so I'm fishing 11 metres now, which again is, there's indications there straight away, so might even have to come a bit further away from the reeds, even though there's probably 2 feet there. Yeah, look, it's just messy. I'm gonna plumb up again. I'm gonna come further away from them reeds. Can't see the point in just sitting there and just not getting. It's not going to improve. It's only going to get worse. Now I'm still feeding that short line. That's still me. I'm sure we'll get a few fish later on, back end of the match on that line. Got to keep that bait going in. You see, it's still shelving up to the reeds, and I feel like I'm knocking. If I'm knocking fish, or whether there is just more reeds there than I'm. There's a lot of stockies in this area, so it's possibly there are stockies that I'm knocking. Well, that's we're going to have a little go there. So just pop that little bit of bait in. That plumb it off. Pellet on, and let's see what I'm going to have got to feel like I've got to target them from what I'm hearing being caught. Again, it's the same rig that I was using across, so it's a similar sort of depth. 0.3, again it's quite a positive rig, so I can just sort of lay that and just wait for just let everything straighten up really quick, and then just lower it into the peg. Turn my pot over, so if I hook one, just tap that bait out. Again, there's fish there, look. So there's one out. Let's just hope that's in the mouth. That might be a good move. Keep coming away from them reeds just to find somewhere a little bit cleaner. I have thought about fishing to the pallet at the next peg, which I'm sure would be cleaner. Obviously this corner where all these reeds are. But shipping in a slightly different funny angle there, it's nice to ship across me, so I'm sure there is 1 or 2 better fish down there, so I want to target that area. Got to find somewhere that's going to stay clean on the bottom, so that was better. Again, keep that bait going in on that short line every second fish, throwing 20-30 maggots on it. I keep seeing people trying to catch the better fish and keeping my eye on them, but they're but nothing's really happening, so I'm going to use the other anglers as well as a guide. So I can just stay on this, wait for maybe 1 or 2 people start catching some better stamp fish, then we can target them myself. But as long as I keep priming it and keep feeding it, I'm not going to be losing too much time. God, they're so delicate, the bite. I didn't take the float under it, just sort of held there, just felt like there was something there. Again, I've got that shot on the hook length to try and show the bites up. Not the biggest of fish. Thought there might be some slightly better stamp stockies down in these reeds. I can't believe that these are knocking these reeds like they are. Honestly, it looks like there's like some proper fish in them reeds. And they do catch, yeah, it's a good peg for it, so maybe there is 1 or 2 in amongst them, but 20 maggots, 30 maggots. Like I said, I'm going to just keep them going every other fish. See if I can start to find a bit of a rhythm. Now, if it starts to get messy, I might have to replumb up again. Just turn that pot over. Little indication, lots of little indications. Holding my float up. Oh, leaf, that's the problem. It's the problem when you're fishing against reeds this time of year. It's dying off, and especially when the fish actually move into your swim. Sometimes it's okay when you're plumbing up and you think, well, that's clear. It's when the fish actually come in and start disturbing them. So I'll be quite, I won't hesitate to move. I'll just quickly replumb back up again. There's fish there, getting indications then, but there's so many fish there. Really is a lot of stock, isn't there? I don't know how many he's put in. Look at that, look. It's off bottom. I'm going to have to start probably fishing off bottom more. Just held that up then, 3 or 4 inches off bottom. Slightly better stamp fish as well. 6, 8 ounce, maybe a bit bigger. It is far easier to fish than fishing over at 14.5. We're fishing 11 point, I think it's 11 here I'm fishing. So it definitely speeds everything up. To be more accurate and everything. But I've got to be putting more fish in the net, or as many at least. I can't, else I'm going to have to, again, just holding that, letting the bait bomb to the bottom. Just holding it up. Lots of little indications. Float's moving, just running slightly to the left, slightly to the right. Let's come off bottom. A bit more off bottom. Oh, disaster. Oh. Yates is wanting to go in for a swim. That's the problem with some of these landing stages. Got to be careful with your kit. Okay, right, it's not windy today. It can be a bit of a watching your tackle when it's windy on these pegs, but right, let's just mark that up. Mark that up and we'll just shall her up again. I'm just hoping all this little bit messing about is going to be worth it. Where I could have been catching a fish or chuck. I'm sure I'd have caught more consistently across at the moment, but if we can catch on this line, I'm sure it'd be quicker. Might have cost myself 20 minutes of fishing, messing about with this, but reed's knocking. Right, just put that in there. There we go. Better. A little bit cleaner. I don't know whether there'll be bigger fish down there, but the first few I've had have been okay. I definitely like that. Averaging at least 3 to the pound, possibly 2 to the pound, a couple of them. Again, just using them little 3mm expanders. I've just done overnight. Like I say, I was just found that just keeping them a little bit firmer, especially when you're fishing across there on the far side, last thing you want is them coming off. Just laid them on water overnight and they just don't seem to soften up. If I'm going to be fishing just a little bit more off bottom there, then I can afford to put my bait in as I'm laying my rig in. So it's just a little bit of messing about at the moment, just trying one or two things just to see if we can find a nice little rhythm. Again, I wanted to go in and catch some proper fish, but we've got to just as I've said that, Steve at the next peg looks like he's got a proper one. I know, it's possibly a stocky. Might be a better one. Yeah, Steve at the next peg got his first proper one, so we're over nearly 3 hours in and neither of us probably expected that. Steve fishes here on a regular basis, so he knows what he's doing. It was second on Friday with £80. Yeah, and we're just putting that mushed up, well soaked expander in, so it sort of clouds but also gets to the bottom quite fast. It's not too, don't send them too dizzy. Again, just lowering it straight in. So that one. It looks like I've found somewhere I can put one or two fish together. These stockies, I mean, again, I'm thinking all the time about the better stamp fish, but I don't want to miss out on these stockies at the moment. If we've got to catch them, I've got to catch them. I'm trying to find the quickest way of catching them. And there's 3 bites there then. But again, it's quicker than chipping over to the far side at 14.5. There's plenty of movement on the float. Oh, got my bait on. I've just been saying how good them pellets were. They've come off, my first one that slipped off all day. So I'm going to get on. I'll come back to you, hopefully I've found a rhythm, or with these stockies, or I actually found 1 or 2 better fish. I'll catch up with you in a bit. Well, when I last left you, I was trying to sort stockies out in the edge, went up towards them reeds, and I was replumbing all poles. It was just really, really messy. I plumbed up 2 or 3 times more, tried to find somewhere that was really clean, but to be honest with you, it was a mess. I timed myself for 20 minutes and I had a dozen, but I probably lost as many, and just didn't feel right. Now in that time, the there was one or two fish started moving against the island on the far side, some proper fish. 3 or 4 fish just moving. And I decided to roll the dice, and I went across, I tapped some maggots in. I just went up the reeds with a rig. It was probably about a foot off bottom. The rigs that I was set up to fish down towards the reeds on this side. And I started on the probably a 2'6". It's probably 3'6" to nearly 4 foot. 2 foot off the reeds. And I put a rig on, it was 2'6". And I laid it in and I caught carp. It's about a third laying. Just had a little cup on the end of my pole and just tapping in 6 to 8 maggots. Not when, just keeping it really, really tight. I couldn't loose feed it across there with the wind anyway. The wind's coming towards me. Just put a little sprinkle pot on. I've just dipped it in the water just before I've actually gone to lay the rig in, and just let them drizzle out on over. I just tapped half a dozen out, but I've left me pot turned over, so I just get a couple of maggots every 10 seconds, just drizzling out. And after that carp, I had a couple of fish top but no bites. And I've gone on a slightly deeper rig, and I've had 3 or 4 F1s, slightly better ones. Not the old stamp, not the 3 or 4 pounders, but they're £1.5 pounds. Probably last couple of years stockies. And that was on a slightly deeper rig. And what happened then was I'm fishing, I was catching them as the rig was going through the water. But once the rig had reached its depth, which was probably 6 to 8 inches off bottom, when I get a bite, I was foul hooking them. So I kept laying it in, and I foul hooked a couple since. So I've gone back now to my, just I've joined you, I've gone back now to my dibber rig, which is 2'6". And I've just first ship out, I've just foul hooked one, but it was a stocker. Come straight to the top, it was a stocker. But I feel as if there's definitely 1 or 2 better fish there in amongst the stockies, which is definitely a bonus with the way today's going. There is 1 or 2 fish starting to feed, some better fish starting to feed. Steve's had a couple to my left, and a couple a bit further up, bottom end of the lake. Kev's still catching some stockies to my right. He says he hasn't caught any better ones, but then Steve says he lies. So, but I'm sure he's not today. He seems a gent, does Kev. But I definitely feel as if fishing across over there is definitely going to give me a chance of catching. Again, I've gone on this shallower rig. It's 6 to 8 inches shallower than the rig that I've just been caught, but I've foul hooked them too. And there's one. Look at that. And that feels like it might be foul hooked again. That's a proper one. And that was even on the drop at 2.5 foot. Set at 2.5 foot, so it's probably took that 12 inches, and I think that's foul hooked. Might be wrong, it might just be, we're still in February and we shouldn't be catching 18 inches deep. I'm praying that that's in the mouth. If it is, that's a really good sign. Now, it didn't shoot off, it just sort of just sat there, but yeah, it's foul, there you go. Thought as much. Didn't feel right. I'm going to shallow up again. I'm going to go a little bit shallow. I'm going to take another 6 inches off. You know, we're in February and we shouldn't really be doing this, but it's been so mild. You know, we've had them southwesterly winds for a few days now, and it's just moved the fish, and it's definitely made it feel like spring for the last few days. So No, they didn't want to be on the bottom. You know, if they wanted to be a little bit deeper and they wanted to feed on the bottom, we would have been catching them. But so we've got to. I've just shipped that out there, and I've just spooked one on the surface. Have you seen that? So I've just shallowed up another 6 inches. I'm just going to keep laying out. I'm probably 18 inches off the edge of the reeds. Look at that as a little indication then. Sure it was. Now the wind's coming towards me, and I'm just on the corner of the island there, and it's actually just a nice little quiet spot just behind the island, so hopefully they're just sat there coming around that corner. Oh, I lifted up then, I didn't think I'd got one, and then it's just a stocker. I think this is going to be a pattern, to be honest with you. I think we're going to keep catching a few stockies, but there's a chance of a better one, which for me, and even the stockies feel look a bit better. I mean, that's 8 ounce, 10 ounce. So I'm all for that. I felt like I was going, even though I was catching fish against them reeds, I still felt as if I was going nowhere. I didn't feel as if it was, I didn't feel like there was going to be any better fish moving to my swim also, so at the moment, so this has definitely been a good roll of the dice at the moment. Keeping me on everybody else, just making sure that I'm not missing a trick. There's 1 or 2 people fishing underneath the platforms now. It's a big method here. Well, I've got a platform to my right. It's very, very shallow underneath the platform to my right, and to be honest with you, I don't fancy it. And that reed bed to my left is just full of stockies. I've never, but they actually, the reeds are knocking like there's some proper fishing amongst them. Some, I'm just laying that in. I say that's 3B12s that, so just 3 number 12 shots. Actually a 0.1 float, 0.15 float. Takes 3 number 12s, just really lightly down the line. Again there, just it's noticeable that if you don't get one on the drop, you don't catch one. Just got to keep laying it in. Look at that, look, just lay that in there, just dink then. Just keep tapping. Just let that pot just drizzle a few maggots out. I don't think you need many, I just think they want to be there. Look at that, look. I mean, that didn't even pull the, oh, it's foul hooked again. That's amazing. Somebody tell them that it's February. And this shouldn't be this shallow. Look at that. I'm going to have to come shallower again. Tiny little things. Them stockies do not, I don't know how big they are. They really do, just tiny little dinks. But they just seem a slightly bigger stamp across there, so that's a big plus. Now I'm still feeding that short line. That's got to be a line that I must keep. Just like again, 20-30 maggots regular. Nobody's caught on it yet from what I've seen. Steve's fishing it to my left. He's searching about a little bit. He's been kept to my right. It's got a decent fish on unless it's found. It looks a good fish. Now as I'm looking here now, I can actually see an odd fish to my left in the dark shadow, probably like more in front of Steve. I can actually see him. I just sat there. And what I don't want to do is just fish a depth and miss out them F1s, them proper F1s might just be a little bit deeper just underneath them. So don't want to, I'll just keep fishing this for a few more minutes. But if I'm going to keep catching stockies, I will pick the other rig back up again and just go that 6 to 8 inches deeper. I don't want to commit just to stockies. See, there's decentish stocky again. So they're definitely a little bit bigger than the ones that are in the against the reeds down the edge. Even though they're only probably still 6-7 ounces, they're still bigger than the ones that I was catching down there. I just feel like these are worth catching, worth the effort. We're across there, and if we can put an odd better one together, then that'd be lovely. Now I'm just banding a maggot. I'm just trying white maggot at the moment. It's a favourite of mine for shallow fishing, white maggot. Single or double white maggot. Again, just on a band. I'm not going to stop on this rig unless it's another couple of fish. If I don't catch a better F1, I will go have a look, see if they've just dropped a little bit deeper. And they're not prepared to push them stockies out of the way and come up a little bit, but it's nice where I'm fishing there, and a nice little shadow across there. Sometimes when you're fishing against them reeds it's difficult to see your float, but it's dull today, and see them last few bites there, that's once it's actually settled, so tendency to miss more bites when it's like that. I'll try and catch them when they're actually baits going through the water. Look at that lot. Now, is that a better one? I don't know. A little bit more elastic out, might just be a decent stocky again. I don't want to go a little bit deeper. I'm going to just foul lock them, but at the same time I don't want to sit above them and not pick the odd one up in amongst these. Right, well, I'll come back to you in a little while and I'll let you know if we've managed to pick any more better still. We start catching a few better fish. Well, we've just crept into the last hour and things haven't gone as well as I'd hoped. There is fish across, but I've just fouled up more or less everything. Any stamp fish that I've hooked, I've foul looked. I've really struggled to put anything in the net of any size. I've still caught stockies. Still been 1 or 2 stockies to be caught over there, but the deeper I go, the more chance I've got of hooking or foul looking a bigger fish. But I can't catch anything clean in the mouth across there. They've definitely backed away since we've last spoke. I think I've had 1 decent fish and probably 25-30 small stockies. So they've still been catching a few fish, but they've not been the fish I wanted. But I felt after that initial little burst of 3 or 4 slightly better fish when we last spoke, the fish I felt as if they've definitely just backed away into the quieter area. The lads to my left are both fishing down the margins against the pallets, and it's just left a quiet area for them to back away to. And when the sun came out, I could actually see them. There was 1 or 2 just nosing out the water. That's really frustrating. I felt as if there was 1 or 2 fish were going to turn up, but when they did come in the peg, I felt like I was just fishing a little bit too deep. But when I fished shallow, I just couldn't catch the stockies properly. So I was having to fish 3 foot, 3'6" to give myself a chance of catching a proper F1, but the stock is probably 2 foot, 2'6". So what I've done is there's definitely 1 or 2 fish starting to come in the margins now. There's probably half a dozen better fish being caught in the surrounding pegs in the last half an hour. So I've come to the right hand side, which is the side that I didn't really fancy. It's a little bit shallower, but the fish have been slightly in shallower water, so I've just put a little bit of ground bait in 20 minutes ago, and I fed twice with a dozen maggots, and I've had 1 better one and a stocky on now. I don't think it's going to be one where you're just going to line a few better ones up. You're just going to get an odd better one in amongst the stockies. They're just, again, they're still putting fish in the net, so now I don't know whether to actually keep the ground bait going in. I just feel as if it's going to attract the stockies in. Every time I just pin some ground bait in, I just feel as if it's a dozen maggots I've sort of settled on. I've tried my short line once and it's just roach and skimmers. There's not even any stockies there in the deep water, so it's just again telling me that the fish are in the shallower water. It's a little bit awkward to fish coming around this side. I'm a bit cross myself. 12 metres down to this next pallet, so it's a little bit awkward, but it's okay. Again, stockies again then. Bait's not even getting to the bottom there, or the fish are just running into your rig. I don't know how many stockies he's put in here, but it's everywhere you go, it's constantly attacking your bait. Any bait you put in, they're constantly bang on it. Now, unless them F1s come in and really want to push them out, they're going to struggle to get a look in. Yeah, I'm just going to tap in a dozen maggots in. Strange, you go in, you catch a big F1 first chuck, and then back into stockies. Must be some, just noticed one then again, just nose, just past my long pole line against the reeds. I don't know whether, maybe if I just give it a bit of quiet time, 1 or 2 might drift back in, drift back down. Oh, is it a better one? Is that a better one? Yeah, I think so, yeah. That's pulling back well. I mean, this venue is absolutely I mean, they get some huge weights in the summer. 300 and 400 pound regular. The F1s. Look at that one. That's a good fish. That's a better one. Big bronze F1. Come on, play nice and be kind. Right down. Slip him back, nice and gently. So again, I wasn't sure whether to put some ground bait in. I just maybe it was a good decision not to, but again, just a dozen maggots. I feel like I maybe need another line, and all I've done is just potted some ground bait and maggots, and I've not been pre-feeding it. I've just literally cut that in 15-20 minutes ago, and I've not fed anything else. A very small amount of bait, and I've just gone over with 2 lots of 20 maggots, and I've had 2 stockies and 2 better F1s in that time. Look at the fish that's there. That's a silverfish. that was a stocky then. Oh, I better check that maggot, make sure it's not over there. I don't want to have any disasters. Make sure that maggot's not gone over the end of the hook. Again, I'm looking over on that far side, and them fish have definitely just backed away after that initial. Yeah, just wanted that little bit of quiet time, a bit of quiet space they want. Maybe if I catch a couple down here, I might be able to rest it and go back across there. Again, little 0.2 rig. 711s here. And one little tip I was given when I very first came up was that they do have a tendency to go round the pallet legs. One little tip I was given was to fish 6 inches in front of a near pallet leg, and they don't seem to go round it, where if you fish in front of the pallet or maybe even the side of the pallet, the shallow water, they have a tendency to go round very quickly. I mean, they could still take me round, I'm only using light elastic, but the 2 or 3 matches I fished here over the last month or so, I've had one go round the leg of the pallet. That's a really good tip. If you ever do come here, I've noticed there's a few people today been done round the pallet. I say pallet leg. Now, the 3 or 4 pegs I've drawn in previous matches when I've been here, there is all different depths around these pallets, and even in the depth of winter when it's been freezing, you can, as long as you've got 2.5, 3 foot, you can still catch. Weed on me up. Even got a bit of weed in front of the pallet. I wasn't expecting that. Let's come off. Let's go back in because there was a fish there. An indication. Yeah, the previous matches when I've fished, it's been really cold. They still catch against these pallets, so it's definitely a fish holding spot. Look at that. Oh, that's nice. Stocky, but the better one. There's a stocker. That was literally on the settle, that was. Oh, it might be a better one. There's like I think it was a stocky that they put in a couple of years ago. Maybe £1 and a bit. Lively. I wish I was catching those type of stockies. Wish they were all the stockies today. £1.25, £1.6. Must keep feeding that short line, even though that last visit didn't result in any F1s, just silverfish. I'm still going to keep feeding it. It's no different to fishing down the margins, you know. If I'd have been probably fishing here 20 minutes ago, I wouldn't have caught anything, so I just arrived. There's no difference on that short line, so I keep putting it in, you never know. Might need just to go on that line for 10 minutes to rest this. Now, I've not been pinging any maggots across on that far side. The wind's at me, doesn't really allow me to. I don't think I'd be accurate enough, and I think I'll be able to go back across there and literally catch straight away, if at least the stockies anyway. It might just. Wow. Better stocky again. Quite a few fish there, I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be too shallow that side, but maybe, just like I say, oh, no disasters. Say the fish have woke up with them warm southwesterlies that we've had over the past few days. Just want to go in that slightly shallower water. Again, I'm just looking up again at the long pole line. I can actually make them out. Every now and again you just see a little nose going out there now. Just seeing I think they're proper carp. Carp in amongst them. Might be, that's all they need. Might have just needed a little bit of quiet time. Just for them to drift back in. It's nice to get some of them. Proper ones. Look at that. Can I just have another? Maybe 1 or 2 fish. Gone straight on them. Again, these are like decent stockies. I can remember these being put in on that very first lockdown a couple of years ago. I was allowed up to fish for them. Give us some bites through the winter. 12-ounce pound. Looking around the lake, everybody seems to be catching a few fish. It's definitely picked up. Well, we've got 40 minutes. 40 minutes left, so I'm going to have another. Don't catch a popper in this cast. I'm going to go back across and just rest it for. I'm going to have to rest it. I can't see myself just. There's definitely some fish there. Getting a lot of indications. Lay that in once more. Well, I'll come back to you with about 10-15 minutes to go, and I'll hopefully we'll put 1 or 2 of them better ones together and give myself a bit of weed. Okay, I'll catch up with you in 10 minutes to go. Well, 10 minutes to go, and we have had an odd better one, but it's still not been easy. Left this line, I went across, I catch little stockies, foul up to another one, just to fall in with how the day's gone. Again, I can still see them. They've just backed away, they just wanted that little bit of quiet space. I think if Steve to my left had fished across, they'd have just backed away from him as well. I don't think it had been. Now I've come back down the edge against this pallet, and there is fish there, but they're still moody. I think there's 1 or 2 better ones there now as well. In amongst them. There you go. That's actually just pulled the elastic out. Probably a stocker. Yeah. There do seem to be a slightly better stamped stocky down there today. You know, we've all sort of, when we've Steve's the same to my left. Definitely a slightly better stamp down the margin the stockies are. Last hour or so. Probably like 10 ounce, 8 to 10 ounces. Obviously looking for them better fish, but I just cannot seem to put anything to. I've tried a little bit more bait. I've upped it to 20 maggots, 25 maggots, but I rested it. When I went back across, I came on it, got an old one first cast, just settled in, went straight under. Since then I've not had another one. Probably another 3 or 4 stockies, but not another one. Just upped it, I've upped the bait. Like I say, I've just gone back to, I dozen maggots again, seems about right. Now, might be foul hooked. Just a sharp little bite. Definitely coming in. Even though still fishing soft elastic, the stockers still managed to I think it's a slightly better one, but it's foul hooked. With that light elastic, just give you a chance. Yeah, slightly better one. It's not a huge one, £1.5. One of the older ones, darker. I think he's under the just underneath the chin. So they're definitely grubbing about. Yeah, look, just I don't know if you can just make the maggot out there. It's just sort of typical of the day, that just not quite getting the reds down properly, but they're definitely feeding stronger now. Might just try double maggot just to see, just a single red and a single white. I tried it earlier, but let's try it again. Something a little bit more stand out. Again, just a dozen maggots. Never know how important these last, even though it's late on, 2 or 3 fish can make all the difference. Quite a few of the F1s down there, the bigger F1s, have been really quick. They've been on the settle, literally. As the bait's hit the bottom, in the first 5 seconds of it landing. So it's been worthwhile just to lay the rig in again, instead of just letting it sit there waiting. Just getting signs. Now, I've heard bottom lakes fish well, been some weights on the bottom lake, but again, there's prizes on this lake. I think there's one overall prize, which will probably come from bottom lake. I think there's a couple of prizes on each lake after that, so it's going to be really close. I think anybody's really run away with it. Everybody's had the little spells where they've had a few stockies and they're very odd. That fish there, look, maybe they just, leaf on the end. Maybe they didn't want that double maggot. Take that off. Didn't get the response we're looking for. I'll take that off. Just leave a single red on. Seems to have been the best bait today. It was the best bait on Friday by far. Tried all the combos. Red maggot and a pinky, fluoro pinky. Sometimes that can work, but no, that didn't. Just hold that nice and tight, just over that feed. Sometimes I just drag it up the shelf slightly, but it seems to be right over that feed. When they come in, they have a little feed like that, and then that's like your little window up to catch him. Again, little better stocky. Oh, it should have all been like this, but well, it's been a great day's fishing, that is for sure. Plenty of bites. It's February. had a few fish shallow, which seems impossible, but not been anything. I don't think anybody's caught dobbing today with bread. I didn't hear anybody. It seems to have just bypassed that at the moment with this weather. Works really well here. It's accounted for some huge weights. Winter, excess of £100. Look at that, on the drop again. Single maggot again. I just didn't want that double. Sure, there, the stockies he put in a couple of years ago, grown on probably 8 to 10, 12 ounce. There's not long left, probably 4 minutes left. Torch you to the whistle. Take you through the last minutes. Don't think I'll be going back across now. Just stay on this line now. Oh no, that's it. My watch is a little bit slow. That's it. What I'll do is I'm going to get packed up. I'll wait for the scales and then I'll come back to you and let you know how we've done. Catch up with you soon. Well, I've tried to keep my bait as simple as possible, but because of the stockies I've had to bring some baits to cover them, and crushed expander has definitely been well worth bringing today. I've mixed it night before to make sure everything's all nicely soaked up and everything, but once I've actually got it, I've actually added some extra water to it just to make it that little bit heavier and a little bit sloppier, but it's just to get it to go down and just trying to keep them stockies on the bottom. Really important that. The other baits that I brought today are maggots. This is basically for the proper F1s during the winter. It's been the #1 bait here all winter, along with a little bit of ground bait, and I'd probably use the more crumblier ground bait for the proper F1s. I've added it to my mix down the edge, along with the maggots, so that's definitely been a worthwhile. The only other baits I've brought today is the fishery micro pellets. I brought them just in case that the actual ground bait was giving me a few too many indications, but the ground bait's been perfect today, to be honest with you, so I've not used the fishery micros. The only other baits I've brought are the expanders. I've brought 2 types of expanders. I've brought 4mm expanders, and I've also brought some 2mm expanders. Again, I've not pumped these, and I've just laid them on water night before. They've soaked up, and it just makes them a little bit firmer, so it's perfect for when you're shipping 14 metres, or even just getting the F1s when you just maybe need to have 2 or 3 strikes to get a clean fish. So that's been my bait choice for today. So I've kept my rig choice really simple today. For the stockies, I've used a bulk and droppers, or I've just opened them out, so like a semi-strung bulk. But for my shallow fishing, even though we're in February, I've just used 11s and 12s strung out and probably like 6 inches apart. Just try to keep it really nice and simple, but they've worked really well today. Well, I've weighed 64 pounds, which has been a really tight match on here. She's won the lake. Not quite sure if it's actually won the match overall. We think there's another weight on bottom pool, if not a couple of weights, but possibly second. What could I have done different? How's the day gone? Well, started off on the stockies, which I thought was a good decision, to be honest with you. I thought I'd just watch the other anglers. There's other anglers that have targeted the bigger fish, which I wanted to do myself, to be honest with you, but I just thought the safe thing to do was to basically target the stockies and then just watch what the other anglers have gone and done. So basically I've just used my crushed expander and the 3mm pellets on like 0.3 and 0.4 rigs. I've worked the far shelf, 2 foot, 3 foot depths over there, and it's been nice and steady. It's been a bit messy at times, but it's been okay. Just kept it quite simple, just had the one line. I've not swapped and changed and put 2 lines in, which you can do, so just kept it steady. I'm in a corner here on peg 20 on top pull, and there's some reeds in the corner, and when we started before the match, we started to knock a few fish with the plummet and everything, and I actually thought there were some proper F1s down there, so I've actually put 2 or 3 shallow rigs up today, which we're in February and it's not something I actually thought I'd be doing. But while I was fishing for the stockies across, I've actually started just ping a few maggots down there for the first hour or 2, and then after probably an hour and 20 minutes I thought I had my first look down there, and to be honest with you, I was quite shocked. I've only caught stockies, but as it's panned out during the day, there were stockies in the reeds knocking and not the proper F1s that I'd hoped for and thought there were. So that's basically threw me a little bit at like probably 2 hours into the match, so I've had to like reset. I've gone back across, carried on catching a few stockies, but I didn't feel as if I was like, wasn't going to be enough. So I've actually come away from, with knowing that there were some stockies in the reeds, I've actually come away from the reeds slightly, and I've tried to catch the stockies at 11 metres instead of 14 metres across there, which, to be honest with you, it worked. But once the fish actually came in the peg, they started to disturb all the dead weed that was around that reed bed, and it just sort of causing all sorts of problems. So basically I felt as if I needed something else, and over that like mid-match there was 1 or 2 fish topping across, and I just thought, well, the rigs that I'd set up to fish down to the reed bed, the shallow rigs, I've actually gone across to the reed bed across, and I thought, and I've just tried them over there, and I've just kindred maggots in, and I've fished between 2 foot, 3 foot, in 4 foot of water. It's quite deep against the reed bed over there, but there were some fish there, and the stockies seemed a little bit better, and I've actually caught 2 or 3 of the proper ones as well. You could actually see them. You've just actually backed off from out my pole distance. So, but I've managed to keep fish ticking over there, and an area of the peg that I didn't expect to catch this morning when I plumbed up was the pallet to my left, away from the corner. It was felt as if it was a little bit too shallow when I first plumbed out this morning, probably about 2 foot. So I sort of neglected it for the first 3.5 hours, but because of the way the match is panned out, and there's definitely been some fish shallow to be caught, so they were in the shallow water and there was 1 or 2 fish moving, I've actually kindred some ground bait and maggots down there with probably about an hour and a quarter to go, and I can't believe the response I had, to be honest with you. There's been some good sized stockies, some like 12-ounce pound fish, and I've had half a dozen of them like better stamp fish, 2 to 3 pound fish. So that's been well worth the effort to put the ground bait and maggots down there. So what could I have done different? There's like always something. I probably could have set up to fish maggots a little bit tighter across, and maybe a little bit of ground bait across. Probably how I fished down this margin, to be perfectly honest. I probably could have done that earlier. I felt as if there was 1 or 2 better fish across there, but without us fishing earlier, there was a lot of people that were struggling. They weren't, even though they were targeting the better fish. So I just felt as if I just keep them stockies ticking over. And you know, so if I did get a late run of better fish, I wasn't going to end short at the end of the day, and that's how it's basically penned out. You know, I've had 64 pound, there's been a 61 pound, there's been a 59 pound, I think there's been a 57 pound, and that's just on this lake, so it's been really tight. So to be honest with you, I'm quite pleased with like coming off the lake with 64 pound and a late win. So with the mild weather at the moment, it's definitely worth setting up them shallow rigs, to be honest with you. Even though I set them up because I'd seen the reeds knocking down there, I've actually took them over to the far side during the match, and they've definitely been possibly the difference between winning the lake and probably coming 3rd or 4th. To be honest with you, the mild weather that we've had in February, it's like, who would have thought we'd be catching shallow in February? But today, and they've definitely made the difference.